New York City, a symphony of noise, a jungle of concrete, a melting pot of dreams, and a nightmare for parking. Finding a parking spot in this city is like finding a needle in a haystack. Expensive, frustrating, and often impossible. But what if you could find a safe, secure parking spot for a pittance? That's where our story begins. Our protagonist, let's call him Mr. Smith, was a man of considerable means. He had a penthouse overlooking Central Park, a yacht moored in the Hamptons, and a fleet of luxury cars. But even a multimillionaire like Mr. Smith can appreciate a bargain. And he had found a way to park his beloved Rolls-Royce for a song. His solution? A simple $5,000 loan. Now, you might be thinking what I'm thinking. Why would a millionaire need a loan? The answer, my friends, is pure genius. Mr. Smith, with his usual air of quiet confidence, strolled into a prestigious bank on Wall Street. The marble floors gleamed, the tellers smiled politely, and the air buzzed with the quiet hum of finance. He approached a loan officer, a young man in a crisp suit, his hair slicked back with enough gel to withstand a hurricane. Loan officer. Good morning, sir. How may I assist you today? Mr. Smith, I'd like to inquire about a small loan. His voice a low rumble that hinted at his wealth and power. The loan officer's eyebrows shot up. He was used to dealing with nervous businessmen, their faces etched with worry over mortgages and lines of credit. But this man, this Mr. Smith, exuded an aura of calm, almost amusement. Mr. Smith, $5,000 to be precise, he continued, as if reading the loan officer's thoughts. I'll need it for 2 weeks. Loan officer, $5,000, he stammered, his composure momentarily shaken. Certainly, sir, but for that amount, we would require some form of collateral. Mr. Smith, smiling. Oh, I have just the thing. He produced a set of keys from his pocket, the gleaming chrome catching the light. The loan officer's eyes widened as he recognized the emblem, the spirit of ecstasy, perched proudly on the keychain. My Rolls-Royce, Mr. Smith explained, gesturing towards the street, parked just outside. The loan officer stumbled towards the window, his jaw practically on the floor. Sure enough, there it was, a gleaming silver Rolls-Royce, its paint job sparkling in the midday sun. $250,000 worth of automobile for a $5,000 loan, Mr. Smith chuckled, his eyes twinkling with amusement. Word of the eccentric millionaire and his unusual collateral spread through the bank like wildfire. Soon, a gaggle of bankers had gathered at the window, their faces a mixture of disbelief and amusement. The bank's president, a portly man with a handlebar moustache that would have made Teddy Roosevelt envious, joined the throng. He peered at the Rolls-Royce, then at Mr. Smith, a low chuckle rumbling in his chest. Well, I'll be, he boomed. The man's got a sense of humour. I'll give him that. The loan officer, still slightly flustered, quickly drew up the paperwork. A $5,000 loan secured against a $250,000 car. Within minutes, the deal was done. Mr. Smith signed the documents with a flourish, pocketed his $5,000 and strolled out of the bank, leaving a trail of bewildered bankers in his wake. The bank president, still chuckling, instructed an intern to drive the Rolls-Royce into the bank's secure underground parking garage. Safe as Fort Knox down there, he declared, shaking his head in amusement. Little did they know, the real joke was on them. Mr. Smith, you see, had just played them all for fools. The bank's underground garage was a world away from the hustle and bustle of the New York City streets. Down here, it was cool, quiet, and eerily still. Rows upon rows of gleaming metal, The chariots of Wall Street's elite stood in silent repose. The intern, his heart still pounding from the thrill of driving a Rolls-Royce, carefully maneuvered the car into an empty space, its silver paint job shimmering under the fluorescent lights. He couldn't believe his luck. He'd been at the bank for barely a month, and already he'd had the chance to drive a car worth more than his entire life savings. He locked the Rolls-Royce, gave the gleaming hood an admiring pat, and headed back to the elevator, whistling a jaunty tune. He couldn't wait to tell his friends about his brush with luxury. Meanwhile, back in the hallowed halls of the bank, Mr. Smith's audacious loan had become the stuff of legend. The story of the millionaire who used a Rolls-Royce as collateral for a $5,000 loan spread from cubicle to cubicle, from the mailroom to the executive suite. It was the perfect anecdote for a slow Tuesday afternoon, a tale that elicited chuckles of disbelief and shakes of the head. The bankers, used to dealing with numbers and spreadsheets, couldn't fathom the logic behind such an extravagant gesture. They saw it as a harmless eccentricity, a testament to the unpredictable whims of the super-rich. Little did they know that Mr. Smith's actions were not driven by whimsy, but by a shrewd and calculated pragmatism. For you see, Mr. Smith was a man who abhorred waste. He had amassed his fortune through careful investments, shrewd business deals, and a healthy dose of frugality. He saw no sense in spending exorbitant amounts of money when a more economical solution was readily available. He knew that parking in New York City, especially for an extended period, could cost an arm and a leg. Secure parking garages charged exorbitant daily rates, and even finding a spot on the street was a gamble, with the ever-present risk of parking tickets, tow-away zones, and the occasional dented fender. Mr. Smith, ever the pragmatist, had devised a brilliant workaround. A $5,000 loan, for which he paid a paltry sum in interest, secured him a safe and secure parking spot for 2 whole weeks. It was a stroke of genius, a testament to his ability to find unconventional solutions to everyday problems. Time, as it always does, marched onward. The stock market ebbed and flowed, deals were made and broken, and the sun rose and set over the island of Manhattan. And in the secure depths of the bank's underground garage, Mr. Smith's Rolls-Royce sat undisturbed, a silent testament to his cunning plan. The intern, his brief brush with luxury fading into memory, had long since returned to his mundane tasks, fetching coffee, making copies, and dreaming of a day when he too could afford a car with a hood ornament that didn't involve a prancing horse. The bankers, their amusement at Mr. Smith's expense having long since subsided, returned to their spreadsheets and financial models, their minds occupied with more pressing matters than the parking habits of a millionaire. But the day of reckoning was fast approaching. 2 weeks to the minute, after he had strolled into the bank with a twinkle in his eye and a plan in his pocket, Mr. Smith returned. He strode through the bank's grand entrance, his demeanour as confident and self-assured as ever. The loan officer, recognizing him instantly, couldn't help but feel a twinge of anticipation. He had recounted the story of Mr. Smith's loan so many times that he felt like he knew the man, even though their interaction had been brief. He wondered if Mr. Smith would offer any further explanation for his unusual actions, or if he would simply repay the loan and disappear back into the labyrinthine world of New York City's elite. Little did he know that Mr. Smith had a surprise in store for him, a final punchline to the joke that had been playing out for the past 2 weeks. Mr. Smith approached the counter, a knowing smile playing on his lips. He placed a stack of bills on the counter, precisely $5,015.41, representing the principal and the accrued interest on his loan. The loan officer, his curiosity piqued, couldn't resist asking the question that had been on his mind for weeks. "Mr. Smith," he began, his voice a mix of curiosity and amusement, We've all been wondering, why would a man of your means bother with a $5,000 loan? Mr. Smith's smile widened, his eyes twinkling with amusement. He leaned in conspiratorially and replied, "Where else in New York City can I park my car for 2 weeks for only $15.41 and expect it to be safe when I return?" The loan officer's jaw dropped, his face a mask of astonishment. The other bankers, overhearing Mr. Smith's words, gasped in unison. They had been played, outsmarted by a man who understood the value of a dollar, even when he had millions of them. For a moment, silence reigned in the bank. The air, thick with the weight of realization, crackled with unspoken amusement. The loan officer, his face flushed a delicate shade of crimson, could only stare at Mr. Smith, speechless. Then a chuckle broke the silence. A teller, unable to contain herself any longer, burst into laughter. Her laughter, like a spark to dry tinder, ignited a wave of mirth that spread through the bank like a virus. The other bankers, their initial astonishment giving way to grudging admiration, joined in the chorus of laughter. The bank president, his handlebar moustache quivering with amusement, roared with laughter, slapping his knee so hard that his monocle popped out. Even Mr. Smith, his point made, couldn't help but chuckle at the absurdity of the situation. He had, in his own understated way, turned the tables on the financial elite, exposing the absurdity of their world with a single, well-placed punchline. The loan officer, his initial embarrassment fading, couldn't help but smile. He had been schooled, outmaneuvered by a master strategist who saw the world through a different lens. Mr. Smith, he realized, wasn't just a millionaire. He was a philosopher king, a man who understood that true wealth lay not in the accumulation of money, but in the ability to use it wisely. He had learned a valuable lesson that day, a lesson that no textbook or finance seminar could have taught him. He had learned that the truly wealthy don't flaunt their wealth, they leverage it. They find creative, often unorthodox solutions to everyday problems. They understand that the best investments are often the ones that make you smile. And as Mr. Smith turned to leave, the echo of his laughter still ringing in the air, the loan officer knew that he would never forget this encounter. This brief glimpse into the mind of a man who had turned parking into an art form. With a final nod and a wink, Mr. Smith turned and strolled out of the bank, leaving behind a trail of bewildered bankers and a legend that would be told and retold within the hallowed halls of finance. He stepped out onto the bustling street, his Rolls-Royce, freshly washed and gleaming in the afternoon sun, awaiting his arrival. He settled into the plush leather seat, the scent of rich mahogany and fine tobacco enveloping him like a warm embrace. As he steered the powerful car into the chaotic flow of New York City traffic, he couldn't help but smile. He had, once again, proven that even the most mundane of problems could be solved with a little ingenuity and a healthy dose of humour. And as the city lights blurred past, he reflected on the simple pleasures of life. A perfectly brewed cup of coffee, a good book, and a safe, affordable parking spot in the heart of Manhattan. The story of Mr. Smith and his $5,000 parking solution quickly spread beyond the walls of the bank. It became a tale whispered in hushed tones on trading floors, shared over martinis in exclusive clubs, and recounted with relish at cocktail parties. It became a parable of modern finance, a cautionary tale about the dangers of underestimating the ingenuity of the wealthy. It served as a reminder that the truly rich play by a different set of rules, a set of rules dictated not by convention, but by an unyielding commitment to maximizing value, even if it meant turning the banking system on its head. And so, the legend of Mr. Smith, the millionaire who outsmarted the bank, was passed down through the annals of financial folklore, a testament to the enduring power of wit, wisdom, and a well-placed parking spot. Mr. Smith's story, though humorous on the surface, offers a deeper insight into the nature of wealth and perspective. While the bankers saw a $5,000 loan, Mr. Smith saw a solution to a practical problem. His wealth had afforded him a unique perspective, allowing him to view the world through a different lens, one that valued efficiency and resourcefulness above all else. His actions, though seemingly eccentric to the uninitiated, were driven by a deep understanding of value. He recognized that the true cost of something extends beyond its monetary value, encompassing factors such as time, convenience, and peace of mind. And in a city like New York, where time and space are precious commodities, Mr. Smith's $15.41 parking hack was nothing short of a stroke of genius. The story of Mr. Smith and his ingenious parking solution serves as a reminder that humor and intelligence are not mutually exclusive. In a world often dominated by seriousness and convention, it is refreshing to encounter individuals who are willing to challenge the status quo, to find humor in the mundane, and to outsmart the system with a smile. Mr. Smith's story transcends cultural and socio-economic boundaries. It is a tale that resonates with anyone who has ever felt frustrated by the complexities of modern life, anyone who has ever dreamed of finding a clever workaround to a seemingly intractable problem. And in a world hungry for laughter and ingenuity, Mr. Smith's story is a much-needed dose of both. The tale of the millionaire's $5,000 loan trick is more than just a humorous anecdote. It is a testament to human ingenuity, a celebration of unconventional thinking, and a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most brilliant. It encourages us to look beyond the obvious, to challenge our assumptions, and to never underestimate the power of a well-placed punchline. And perhaps it even inspires us to find our own clever hacks, our own moments of brilliance in the everyday chaos of life. The bank, once a bastion of hushed whispers and the clinking of coins, continued to buzz with the aftershocks of Mr. Smith's audacious move. The tellers, usually confined to monotonous transactions, couldn't help but share the tale with their customers, their eyes twinkling as they recounted the millionaire's parking caper. The loan officer, forever marked by his encounter with Mr. Smith, found himself repeating the story at dinner parties, his wife rolling her eyes at the sheer audacity of it all. Even the stoic bank president, a man who prided himself on his unwavering composure, would occasionally erupt into a fit of chuckles, his handlebar moustache bouncing with mirth as he recalled the day a millionaire outsmarted his institution. Mr. Smith, however, was long gone, his silver Rolls-Royce a distant memory in the rearview mirror. He had moved on to other endeavors, other challenges, leaving behind a legacy of laughter and a valuable lesson in creative problem-solving. The millionaire's $5,000 loan trick at its core is a story about perspective. It highlights the different ways in which we perceive value, especially when viewed through the lens of wealth. For the bank, a $5,000 loan was a trivial matter, a mere blip on their financial radar. For Mr. Smith, however, it was an opportunity, a chance to leverage his resources to solve a mundane problem with a touch of wit and ingenuity. His wealth, rather than becoming a burden or a source of ostentation, had become a tool for navigating the intricacies of urban life with a mischievous grin. And in that disparity of perspective lies the heart of the joke. A joke that speaks volumes about our relationship with money, our priorities, and the often absurd lengths we go to in pursuit of convenience and security. Mr. Smith's story also serves as a gentle reminder that wealth in the right hands can be a force for good. Not in the traditional sense of philanthropy or charitable giving, but in a subtler, more subversive way. His actions, though driven by self-interest, had an unintended consequence. They brought joy, laughter, and a healthy dose of humility to the often serious world of finance. He had, in his own small way, exposed the absurdity of a system that often values profit over people, complexity over common sense. And in doing so, he had reminded us that even the wealthiest among us are not immune to the mundane challenges of everyday life, and that sometimes the most satisfying solutions are those that are both clever and amusing. The world of finance, often perceived as a dry and humorless realm of numbers and spreadsheets, can be a surprisingly fertile ground for comedy. The inherent absurdity of a system that revolves around the pursuit of abstract wealth, a system where fortunes can be made and lost on a whim, lends itself to satire and wit. Mr. Smith's story, with its understated humor and unexpected twist, exposes the inherent silliness of a world where a $250,000 car can be used as collateral for a $5,000 loan, a world where the pursuit of profit often trumps logic and common sense. And in doing so, it reminds us to never take ourselves or our finances too seriously. After all, laughter, like compound interest, has a way of multiplying over time, leaving us richer in ways that money could never buy. Mr. Smith, the millionaire with a penchant for parking pranks, may have faded into the urban tapestry, but his legacy lives on. His story continues to circulate in the hallowed halls of finance, a cautionary tale for bankers and a source of inspiration for those who dare to challenge the status quo. He has become a folk hero of sorts, a symbol of wit, resourcefulness, and the power of unconventional thinking. His story reminds us that true wealth lies not just in the size of our bank accounts, but in our ability to find joy, humor, and creative solutions in the face of life's everyday challenges. And so, the next time you find yourself grappling with a seemingly insurmountable problem, remember Mr. Smith and his $5,000 parking solution. Take a step back, reframe the situation, and who knows, you might just stumble upon a solution that is both ingenious and amusing.